You know how everything seems to be getting more personalized these days? Like music apps suggesting your next favorite song,
Yeah.
or news feeds knowing exactly what you want to read.
Right.
Well, that same kind of personalization is really hitting the gas in a place you might not expect.
Oh, yeah.
Car insurance.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so today we are diving deep into what's known as usage-based insurance,
Usage-based insurance.
or UBI.
Okay, UBI.
And basically,
Yeah.
forget about just your age or your car model. This is all about insurance that looks at how you actually drive, the choices you make when you're behind the wheel.
So it's like tailored to you specifically.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we've got some really cool insights here, mainly from this report that's forecasting the future of this whole UBI market.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So if you've ever wondered if good driving could actually save you money,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're just curious about what the future of cars and insurance might look like,
Right.
you're in the right place.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so what we really want to do in this deep dive is unpack this report,
Okay.
figure out just how big this UBI market is right now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's headed in the next few years,
Okay.
what's really driving all that growth,
Mm-hmm.
and then ultimately
Yeah.
what it means for all of us,
Right.
as drivers,
Yeah.
or just people interested in how these industries are changing.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
let's just jump right into the big picture here.
Okay.
The report gives a pretty big number for the global UBI market in 2025,
Okay.
projected to be $44.68 billion US dollars.
Wow.
That's already a huge market.
That is a big market.
But
Yeah.
what's really interesting is the projected growth from there.
Okay.
This report says it could get to a massive $225.09 billion by 2033.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
That's like, what, 5 times bigger?
Yeah, it's a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 22.40%
Yeah.
between 2025 and 2033.
Wow.
So this isn't just like a slow and steady thing.
Right.
It's a steep climb.
Like really taking off.
Exactly.
Huh.
And so
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, what's the engine behind this crazy acceleration?
Yeah. What's fueling that growth?
There are a few things happening at the same time here.
Okay.
The report talks about, first of all, the increasing sophistication and use of telematics.
Telematics, right?
Yeah.
Like the tracking and communication stuff.
Exactly. Think of it as the nervous system of a connected car.
Oh, okay.
It's using sensors and all these communication technologies to transmit data about how the car is running and its environment.
So it's gathering all this information about the car and the driver.
Right. And these advancements are crucial for being able to track driving behavior accurately.
Makes sense.
We're also seeing the growing integration of the Internet of Things.
IoT, right?
Yes.
Where everything's kind of talking to each other.
Exactly. All these different parts in and around the vehicle are connected and sharing data that's relevant to driving.
Interesting.
And then, of course, there's AI, artificial intelligence.
Right, AI.
AI is playing a big role in sorting through these huge amounts of data from UBI, finding patterns.
So it can help figure out who's a risky driver and who's not.
Yeah, it can predict risk more accurately than old school methods.
Interesting.
And of course, the fact that we have more and more connected cars on the road just adds to this whole data stream.
Right. More data for the AI to work with.
Exactly. So you can see it's not just a tiny part of the insurance world anymore.
Yeah, it's getting big.
This is becoming a major shift in how car insurance works on a global level.
Makes sense.
And the report also gives us a regional breakdown, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we can see where this growth is really happening.
Great. So where's it taking off the most?
Well, in 2025, North America is holding the biggest slice of the pie,
Okay.
over 40% of the global UBI revenue.
Wow.
Their market size is estimated at $16.53 billion in 2025.
Okay.
And they're projected to keep growing at a CAGR of 20.7% all the way through 2033.
So North America's in the lead.
Yeah, and within North America, the U.S. is really the dominant force.
Right. Makes sense.
The U.S. market's projected to be $13.04 billion in 2025, with a similar growth rate of 20.5%.
Okay.
Canada's also doing really well, market size of $1.98 billion, and a slightly higher projected CGR of 21.5%.
Yeah.
And then Mexico contributes $1.50 billion with a 21.2% CDGR.
So it's pretty much all across North America.
Yeah, North America's not just the biggest right now.
Right.
It's going to keep that strong growth going.
So North America's booming. What about Europe? How does it compare?
Well, Europe comes in second.
Okay.
It holds over 30% of the global UBI revenue in 2025.
Right.
Their market size is estimated at $12.96 billion.
Okay.
And they're also expecting a strong CDR of 21.3% through 2033.
So still some solid growth there.
Yeah, and within Europe, there are a few key markets that stand out.
Oh, like which countries?
Well, the UK is a big one, with a projected market size of $2.18 billion in 2025 and a strong CGR of 22.1%.
Okay.
Germany's not far behind, $2.57 billion.
Yeah.
And a 21.5% CGR.
All right.
And then some others worth mentioning are France at $1.19 billion with a 20.5% CAGR,
Mm.
Italy at $1.11 billion and 20.7%.
Okay.
And even Russia has a substantial $2.01 billion market with a 20.3% CAGR.
So pretty much all the major European economies are on board with UBI.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Interesting.
Now, shifting gears to Asia Pacific, or APAC.
Okay, APAC.
This is where the report suggested some seriously rapid growth.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, so APAC currently holds around 23% of the global UBI market share,
Okay.
with a size of $10.72 billion in 2025.
All right.
But get this,
Yeah.
their projected CAGR is the highest of any region,
Oh, wow.
a whopping 25.5% between 2025 and 2033.
So they're really catching up.
Yeah, it's a super dynamic market that's just exploding.
That's wild.
And within APAC, the growth is especially concentrated in a few places.
Like where?
Well, China's a major player.
Okay.
Projected market size of $4.5 billion in 2025 and a CGR of 25%. India is another high-growth market, expected to hit $1.07 billion, with an even higher whole CGR of 27.4%.
Wow.
And then Southeast Asia as a whole is looking good too, $0.71 billion market and a 26.3% CAGR.
So lots of growth in that part of the world.
Yeah, it seems like the increasing number of people owning cars in these rapidly developing economies,
Right.
combined with maybe, being more open to new technologies,
Yeah, maybe.
that's really fueling this huge surge.
Interesting.
So APAC is definitely the one to watch for the biggest UBI boom.
Gotcha. So we've covered North America, Europe, and APAC. What about the rest of the world, like South America, the Middle East, Africa?
Well, South America currently makes up over 5% of the global market,
Okay.
with a size of $1.70 billion in 2025.
Right.
And a projected CAGR of 23.2%.
Okay. And who are the big players there?
Brazil is the dominant market, $0.73 billion with a 23.8% CAGR, followed by Argentina at $0.29 billion and a slightly higher CGR of 24.1%.
All right. And what about the Middle East?
The Middle East has a smaller share, around 2%,
Okay.
market size of $1.79 billion in 2025, and a CAGR of 23.9%.
So it's still growing at a decent rate.
Yeah, and the key markets there are Saudi Arabia at $0.63 billion with a 24.2% CAGR, and the UAE at $0.37 billion with a 24.4% CAGR.
Okay, so steady growth across the board.
And then finally, Africa.
Right. Africa.
They hold around 1% of the global market,
Okay.
with a size of $0.98 billion in 2025,
All right.
and a CAGR of 22.7%.
So a little smaller, but still growing.
Yeah, South Africa is the biggest market there,
Yeah.
$0.35 billion with a 23.6% CAGR.
Mhm.
And then Nigeria is at a smaller $0.08 billion, but a
Yeah.
similar growth rate of 22.9%.
So even though the current market share is smaller in those regions,
Right.
those growth rates are nothing to sneeze at.
Exactly. It suggests that as infrastructure improves and awareness grows,
Yeah,
we're going to see more and more UBI adoption in those places.
makes sense.
It's pretty amazing to see how UBI is being adopted so differently around the world.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And speaking of different, the report also breaks down the various types of UBI policies that you might run into.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it mainly focuses on three main models.
Okay, three main models.
The first one is pay how you drive, or PHYD.
Pay how you drive.
Yeah, and with this one, your insurance premiums are directly connected to your actual driving habits.
So like how well you drive.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Things like how often you speed, how hard you brake, and how you take corners.
So it's not just about how much you drive, but how you drive.
Right, and the better you drive, the lower your premium could be.
Oh, so you're rewarded for good driving.
Exactly.
I like that.
And the report suggests that PHYD is actually going to become the most popular model in UBI.
Really? Why is that?
Well, it seems to be driven by people wanting more personalized and flexible insurance options.
Right. People want things tailored to them.
Yeah, and it just makes sense for those safer drivers who feel like their good habits should be rewarded.
Yeah, why should they pay the same as someone who's reckless?
Exactly. And from the insurer's perspective,
Yeah.
It allows for a much more precise way of assessing risk.
right, because they have actual data on how you drive.
Exactly.
So it's win-win for both sides.
It seems like it.
Okay, so that's pay how you drive. What's the second type?
The second one is pay as you drive,
Pay as you drive.
or PDD.
Pay-D. Okay.
This one's a bit simpler.
Okay.
Your premiums are mainly based on how many miles you drive.
So less driving, less paying.
Exactly.
That
The less you drive, the less you pay.
seems fair.
And the report actually highlights PayD as the fastest growing segment within the whole UBI market.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's especially appealing to people who don't drive much.
Right, like people who work from home or mainly use public transport.
Exactly. And the fact that connected car technology is becoming so common,
Yeah,
it makes tracking mileage so much easier and more accurate,
makes sense.
which just fuels the growth of PayD even more.
Interesting.
And then the third type of policy is manage how you drive.
Manage how you drive.
Yeah, or MHYD. MHYD.
This one takes a slightly different approach.
Okay, how so?
Well, instead of directly changing your premiums based on your driving,
Right.
MHYD is more about giving you feedback on your habits.
So it's like a coaching program.
Kind of. The main goal is to encourage safer driving.
Okay.
You might not get immediate discounts on your premiums,
Right.
but if you show improvement over time,
Mm-hmm.
that could lead to better rates down the road.
So it's more long-term.
Yeah, think of it as a tool to help you become a better driver and be more aware of risks.
So it's kind of like having a virtual driving instructor.
Yeah, in a way.
Interesting.
And it's not just the policies that are different.
Right.
The way this driving data is collected can vary too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
The report talks about a few different types of devices they use for UBI.
Okay.
Currently, the black box is the most common.
Black box.
Yeah, these are usually little devices installed directly in your car,
Okay.
and they can collect really detailed data on all sorts of driving stuff.
So they're pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, I'd imagine these give insurance companies the most thorough risk assessment.
Right, because they have all the data.
Exactly.
But I bet there are other ways to collect this data, too.
You're right, there's another segment that's growing super fast.
What's that?
Smartphones.
Smartphones. Really?
Yeah.
How do they use smartphones for this?
Well, with how powerful smartphones are these days,
Right.
and with all the telematics-based insurance apps out there,
Mm-hmm.
your phone can basically act as a driving data recorder.
Huh. Interesting.
It can use GPS and its built-in sensors to monitor things like speed,
Yeah.
acceleration, how hard you brake, even how sharply you turn.
So your phone is basically watching everything you do while you're driving.
In a way,
Hmm.
yeah. I bet that's a lot more convenient than having a separate device installed.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely more convenient and affordable,
Right. No installation costs.
which is why it's such a quickly growing area.
Makes sense. It's easier for both the drivers and the insurance companies. So smartphones are a big one. What else is there?
Well, the report also mentions OBD dongles.
OBD dongles, right?
Yeah, those little devices you can plug into your car's onboard diagnostics port.
Oh, yeah. The thing mechanics use.
Exactly. Well, UBI programs can use those to access vehicle data too.
Huh. So they're repurposing those for insurance?
Yeah, pretty clever.
Yeah.
And then there's a category for others,
Others?
which could be any of the newer technologies coming out.
Right, like cutting edge stuff.
Exactly.
So even though those dedicated black boxes are the top dog right now, it sounds like smartphones are catching up quick.
They are.
And speaking of different types of things,
Yeah.
what about the kinds of vehicles using UBI?
Well, the report talks about that too.
Okay.
Right now, passenger vehicles are the biggest chunk of the UBI market.
Passenger vehicles, so like regular cars?
Yeah, personal cars.
Okay.
And that makes sense.
Right, most people drive regular cars.
Exactly. And there's a growing demand from people who want more personalized and cheaper insurance.
Makes sense.
But the commercial vehicle sector is also growing really fast.
Commercial vehicles like trucks and delivery vans?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
Businesses with fleets of vehicles are starting to see the benefits of UBI.
Like what kind of benefits?
Well, things like better cost management and encouraging safer driving among their employees.
Right, make sure the drivers aren't being reckless.
Exactly. And models like PayYD and PHYD let them connect insurance costs more directly to how much the vehicles are actually being used
Okay.
and how their drivers are behaving.
So it's all about efficiency.
Yeah, it leads to much more efficient fleet operations.
Interesting. So it's not just about individuals saving money.
Right.
Businesses are getting in on it too.
Exactly. They're seeing real benefits in terms of saving money and improving safety.
Makes sense.
Now let's dig a little deeper into what's actually pushing this market forward.
Okay.
The report highlights a few key drivers.
All right, what are they?
Well, one big one is the fact that mobile tracking and telematics devices are getting better and more widely used.
Right, like we talked about with the smartphones.
Exactly. As smartphones get more advanced
Yeah.
and telematics keeps evolving,
Yeah.
UBI programs are getting more sophisticated and effective.
So they're able to gather and analyze driving data more easily and accurately.
Precisely.
And what about AI and IoT? I remember the report talked about them as well.
You're right. They're also playing a huge role.
Okay.
UBI is getting more accurate and efficient thanks to AI-driven risk assessment.
Right. AI can analyze all that data.
Exactly. And the huge amount of data collected through IoT-enabled devices in vehicles.
So the car itself is providing a ton of information.
Yep. AI can now analyze tons of data on driving behavior to create really detailed risk profiles.
And it can go way beyond simple things like speed.
Right. It's a much more nuanced picture.
Makes sense.
And then you've got all those IoT devices embedded in cars.
Yeah.
They provide a constant stream of real-time information.
It's like the car is constantly talking to the insurance company.
Yeah, pretty much.
And with more and more connected cars and eventually self-driving cars, that data flow is just going to keep growing.
Exponentially.
Yeah, exponentially.
The report really emphasizes that the rise of connected and autonomous vehicles,
Right.
it's going to make it even easier for insurers to collect real-time data.
So we could see some super advanced and personalized UBI programs in the future.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's really fascinating.
It is. It's like a perfect storm of all these technological advancements coming together to push this market forward.
Makes sense, but are there any roadblocks? Any challenges that could slow things down?
Well, the report did mention some potential hurdles.
Like what?
One of the main ones is the cost.
Cost, right?
Yeah, setting up UBI programs can be expensive, especially if they involve installing dedicated hardware like those black boxes.
Yeah, those can't be cheap.
Those upfront costs can be a barrier for some insurance companies.
Right. And maybe even for some drivers.
Okay, cost is one thing. What else?
The other big concern is the possibility of data manipulation and fraud.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
As more and more data is collected and used to decide insurance premiums,
Yeah.
making sure that data is secure and accurate becomes incredibly important.
Right. You don't want people gaming the system.
Exactly. We need really strong systems to prevent tampering and ensure that driving behavior is being assessed fairly and accurately.
So security is a big issue.
Huge, especially as this market keeps growing.
So we've talked about the drivers and the restraints. What about trends? Anything interesting happening in the UBI world?
Yeah, the report actually points out a few key market trends that are shaping the future of UBI.
Like what?
Well, one big trend is the continued advancement of cloud computing.
Cloud computing, right?
Yep. Cloud technologies give us the infrastructure we need to handle the massive amounts of data generated by UBI programs.
So it's like the backbone of the whole system.
Exactly. It allows for efficient storage, processing, and in-depth analysis of all those driving patterns.
Makes sense. You need a lot of computing power to crunch all that data.
Absolutely.
And I remember reading something about collaborations between car makers and insurance companies.
Yes, that's another major trend.
Okay.
We're seeing more and more partnerships between car manufacturers and insurance companies.
So they're working together.
Yeah, it allows them to integrate telematics and UBI features directly into cars right from the factory.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it could lead to more user-friendly and advanced systems right out of the gate.
So you don't even need to install anything extra.
Exactly.
Huh. That's a cool development.
Yeah, it really streamlines the whole process for everyone involved.
And speaking of streamlining, the insurance industry is super competitive.
It is.
So who are the big players in the UBI space?
Well, the report lists several key players in this really active market.
Okay, who are they?
Well, you've got the big insurance giants like Progressive, Allstate, AXA, Liberty Mutual, and State Farm.
Right, the usual suspects.
Exactly. And then there are companies that specialize in telematics solutions like Octo Telematics, Zuby, and Vodafone Automotive.
Okay, and what about those companies we talked about earlier, Metromile and Unipulsi?
Yeah, they're highlighted as major players too.
So it's a mix of established companies and newcomers.
Exactly.
And what are they all focusing on to get ahead in this market?
It seems like the main focus is on using AI-powered data analytics.
Right, to understand driver behavior.
Yeah, to get deeper insights into how people actually drive.
And probably to develop better risk profiles.
Yeah. exactly. They're also working on finding new and engaging ways to interact with customers.
Right, to get people to sign up and stick with them.
Exactly. And of course, they're constantly improving their telematics technologies.
So they can collect more accurate data.
Yep. And do better risk assessments.
So it's a race to see who can understand driving data the best.
Yeah, and then use that knowledge to offer the most attractive and beneficial UBI products.
It's all about offering the best deals to the safest drivers. And I bet partnerships are important too.
They are. The report emphasizes how important it is for companies to team up.
Right, to stay competitive.
Yeah, they're forming alliances with cloud computing providers, IoT companies, and of course, car manufacturers.
To strengthen their position in the market and make their UBI offerings even better.
Exactly.
So we've got all this competition and collaboration going on. Any cool examples of innovation happening?
There are a couple of interesting examples the report highlights.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's Unipol. In Italy, they launched something called Berebel back in June 2023.
Berebel, okay.
It's a fully digital monthly auto insurance plan that's completely based on usage.
So like PayWayD.
Kind of. It provides kilometer-based coverage, costing around $10.69 per month for the first 200 kilometers.
Okay.
And then they charge you an extra 2 cents for every kilometer you drive after that.
So it's super transparent. You know exactly what you're paying for.
Yeah, it's a really clear and potentially affordable option, especially for people who don't drive much.
That's a neat idea.
Yeah. And then the other example is Progressive's acquisition of Protective Insurance back in June 2021.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
This acquisition was likely a move to expand Progressive's presence in the commercial vehicle insurance market.
Right, which is a sector with a lot of potential for UBI.
Exactly. So we're seeing both new product models and strategic business moves as companies compete in this growing market.
It's a really dynamic landscape.
It is. We've covered a lot of ground here. It's been a really insightful look into the world of usage-based insurance.
Yeah, tons of information.
So to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I'd say the main takeaway is that UBI is not just some niche thing.
Right.
It's a major market that's growing rapidly all over the world.
And what's driving that growth?
Well, it's a combination of things: technological advancements, people wanting more personalized insurance, and the potential for saving money.
Makes sense.
We're also seeing different growth rates across different regions and with various types of policies and devices.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Exactly. It's a dynamic and evolving landscape with lots of opportunities for both insurance companies and drivers.
And for those of you listening,
Yeah.
think about how this might affect your own car insurance choices in the future.
Right. Good point.
Do you like the idea of usage-based premiums?
Yeah. Would you be comfortable sharing your driving data if it meant lower costs?
These are questions that are becoming more and more important as UBI continues to expand.
And looking even further ahead, as cars get more connected and we get closer to self-driving cars, it raises a really interesting question.
What's that?
How might car insurance change even more?
Right, beyond just tracking how much and how well we drive.
Exactly. What completely new models of insurance might we see in a world where human drivers are less and less involved?
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely.